So I really enjoyed your video, Alex, and I think this is the big question, isn't it? Is YouTube a public discourse, or is YouTube uh, egotistical leisure activity that uh, draws people to it because of their ability to show themselves off, to market themselves in the sense for popularity's sake instead of for the sake of discourse? And Habermas is onto something in the sense that the public sphere of rational debate has really degenerated with the rise of mass media, because um, as soon as you have uh, programming being broadcast out on such a massive scale, the same programs to millions of people, um, critical debate stops because people become passive observers of the news instead of active participants in it. And that seems to be the trend, and I can't deny that. And as far as what YouTube is, it seems right now that it's struggling to be something more than just a leisure activity. I think I don't consider it a leisure activity. I don't think you consider it a leisure activity. I know there's others who don't consider it a leisure activity. They consider it a political activity, a philosophical discourse, a rational discourse, and it definitely can be a means of communication between people all around the world. And I'm not sure. I'm in America right now, in Orlando, Florida, and I'm not sure exactly where you are, but without YouTube, we wouldn't have been able to have this communication. And I guess the real question is whether or not the people themselves are motivated enough to try to make a change, to try to recreate the public sphere. And because the last century or so has been the birth of propaganda was really the most important features of the whole century, you could argue, because it changed the way people think of themselves, of their countries, of life in general, the way consent is manufactured, the way the American media portrayed 9/11 after that tragedy. It was so manipulative looking back, and it may not even be. I mean, you could give the media, these huge corporations, the benefit of the doubt and say that it may not even some conscious plan to deceive us that they have. Like there's, a media Illuminati trying to program us into government's plans and wishes. But I don't necessarily suppose that that is the case. But it seems like Marshall McLuhan used to say that the medium is the message, and the medium of TV, the format that it has become, is destructive to the public discourse because of the way it marginalizes differing opinions, and it marginalizes the spectrum of rational debate. And it's a question as to whether the debate that we see on the mainstream media is even rational. I would say oftentimes it's not, but it masquerades as rational because it becomes the norm, and people fall into it because it's the way they're just programmed to perceive whatever the situation is, whether it's 9/11 or whatever. The war in Iraq right now, the media is obviously giving a lot of negative coverage of the situation, but they're still not portraying this as, I think one could argue, would be the rational way of looking at this, since that there is a public, 60 to 70% of which wants us out of Iraq, the majority of which also feels as though the president has deceived the country, and yet he's still in power, waging a war against Congress's wishes. I mean, this is a very there's a rift right now in our government. It's so deep and so extreme right now. The fact that we have a president going against the wishes of 70% of the population of his nation is unbelievable. And it's even more unbelievable that people don't seem to care that's happening. I mean, you know, you do opinion polls and people give their opinions. But I guess what really distinguishes a leisure activity from rational discourse is when you have a rational discourse, you're willing to follow through with what you say, with actions that make changes, and not just give opinions to express who you are and your freedom of, you know, having whatever opinions you want to have about the world without actually applying them to anything. It seems like, in that sense, the public sphere of rational discourse is disarray. But I think it's up to us to make it come back together, and it's up to us to bring the rational discourse back to the level of respectability. It's not up to Habermas. It's not up to the media, the mainstream media corporations. It's up to us now, because now we have access to this format of communication, and we never had that before. So now we have a voice, and we decide what we do with the voice. So yeah, I'm interested to see what you thought of what I had to say. So let's try to get a dialogue going, and let's try to get other people involved in the same dialogue, because it's so important. It really is. It's so important because it's in our hands. We literally have the ability to change this. No one individual does. We all have to do it together, and that's why it's so hard to get it to arise at once. But all it takes is everybody getting on the same page and realizing how important this is. So, yeah, thanks for listening.